He didn't say a word, but everyone heard him. The airport terminal buzzed with the usual pre-boarding chaos. Announcements echoed, children cried, and passengers shuffled through lines clutching coffees and carry-ons. Gate B12 was boarding Flight 724 to Chicago. Among the line of weary travelers stood an old man, tall but slightly hunched, wearing a neatly pressed suit with a pin that glinted under the overhead lights. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his boarding pass. No one paid much attention to him. Just another old man traveling alone. When the plane began boarding, he moved slowly. A cane supported his step, and his breathing was shallow, measured. He offered a polite smile to the flight attendant at the door, who barely acknowledged him, preoccupied with getting the line moving. Seat 14C. Aisle. He placed his coat in the overhead bin, but struggled when he tried to lift his bag. It wasn't heavy, just awkward. His shoulders, once square and strong, now bent under time's weight. He tried once, then twice. No one helped. Behind him, a middle-aged man in a sharp business suit groaned. "Hurry up, man," he snapped. "We're not getting any younger." A few chuckled nervously. The flight attendant, Kelly, stormed down the aisle. She was brisk, tired, and clearly at her limit. "Sir, if you can't manage your bag, you should have checked it in. Please take your seat. We're already behind schedule." He turned to her, surprised. "I'm trying," he said gently. "I just—" Without waiting, she reached up, shoved the bag into the bin, and gave his shoulder a firm push to guide him into his seat. "There. Now sit." The passengers around watched. Some uncomfortable, some indifferent. The old man didn't argue. He nodded, whispered thank you, and sat down, wincing slightly as he did. Then he pulled out a phone. Not a smartphone. Not even a flip phone. An old satellite phone with a worn antenna. He opened it, pressed a single button, and held it to his ear. He whispered something no one could hear. And then he waited. The engines began to hum. The plane rolled back from the gate. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then the intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen," came the captain's voice. "We've received a federal directive to return to the gate. Please remain seated." A murmur rose. People turned, looked at each other. Did someone say federal? Is this a security issue? The jet turned back slowly. Through the small windows, a pair of black SUVs approached. 3 men in dark suits stood at the base of the jet bridge. The door opened. Kelly, the flight attendant, turned pale. One of the men stepped aboard. He didn't shout. He didn't look around. He pointed. "Ma'am, please gather your things. You're being removed from the aircraft immediately." Passengers gasped. She stammered. "What? What are you talking about?" "I didn't. What is this?" "Please cooperate." "But I did nothing wrong. It was just a he." Her eyes locked on the old man in 14C. He didn't look back at her. He just sat calmly, his hands folded on his lap. She was escorted out without further explanation. The cabin fell into silence. Then whispers. "What just happened? Was it because of that guy? Who is he?" A young woman in 13B turned around and said, "Wait a second. I know that face. I saw him in a documentary last year." A teenager scrolled his phone, his face suddenly pale. "Guys, he's General Harold Stone." The name hit like a shockwave. Whispers became realization. General Harold Stone, the man who led the last major humanitarian rescue in Eastern Europe. The man who defied orders to airlift children from a collapsing war zone. The man who was awarded not just medals, but global honors for peacekeeping. And here he was, shoved in a plane like any ordinary old man, treated with irritation, with impatience, with dismissiveness. Because no one knew. Because no one looked beyond the wrinkles and the cane. Because respect was based on appearance, not essence. The captain himself came down the aisle moments later. He removed his cap. "General Stone, sir," he said, voice trembling. "I had no idea. I'm deeply sorry for what occurred." The old man looked up, eyes steady. "You didn't need to know who I was," he said softly. You only needed to remember what basic respect looks like. The captain bowed his head. Understood. When the plane finally took off an hour later, the energy inside had shifted entirely. No more laughter. No more disinterest. Passengers sat straighter. They glanced toward 14C with reverence. Some whispered apologies as they passed him. One mother leaned down, her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Tell him thank you," she urged gently. The girl smiled shyly and said, "Thank you for what you did." He gave a small nod and replied, "You're welcome. Just be kind to people, all right." News of the incident didn't stay in the cabin. By the time the flight landed, videos had gone viral. Headlines blazed. Flight attendant removed mid-flight after shoving decorated war hero. General Stone incident sparks national outcry. The airline issued an immediate public apology. Kelly was not only terminated, but blacklisted from multiple carriers. In her file, mishandling of a high-risk discrimination case. But General Stone didn't ask for punishment. He never mentioned her again. Instead, he asked the airline to implement a new mandatory training, compassion before credentials. They agreed. The FAA partnered with him to roll out a national campaign. Posters of him began appearing in airports across the country, not in uniform, not as a hero, but as a tired old man with a cane and a kind smile. Beneath the image, respect doesn't require recognition. Weeks later, during a national veterans ceremony, General Stone was asked to speak. Cameras rolled. Crowds cheered. But he only spoke for a minute. In that cabin, he said, "I was seen as a burden, a delay, a problem." That's how many people are treated every day. And not everyone has a number on their phone they can call. So I'll say this, you don't need to be a general to stand for someone. You just need to be human. Applause followed, thunderous and long. But on that day in the air, the lesson wasn't just for the airline or the staff or even the nation. It was for everyone on that plane who said nothing, who looked away, who let disrespect slide by because it wasn't loud enough to disrupt them, because it didn't seem worth the risk. The most powerful people, it turns out, aren't always the ones who raise their voices. Sometimes they're the ones who wait, then make a single call. If you found this story powerful, share it with someone who needs a reminder that dignity isn't earned, it's owed. And always remember, sometimes the strongest stand doesn't require a shout, just a choice.